Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Sports and Shenanigans, where women's sports and pop culture collide right here on the Kansas City Sports Network. We are powered by Cherry Co., a women-owned brand that celebrates amazing achievements of icons and celebrities. And today, we found one of those legends right here in Kansas City, and she is joining us. I'm thrilled to be joined with ShaRon Turner, a.k.a. DJ Diamond Diva. ShaRon and I first met years ago, and I knew her to be a nurse and a DJ and a Chiefs fan. But you have to listen to this list of accolades. And this isn't even all of them. But ShaRon, behind her name, is a registered nurse. We've got RN. Also one of the first, I think, female DJs really in the music space right here in Kansas City, and continuing to trailblaze through that music space and make a name for female DJs. She also has spent many years in the medical field. We talked about registered nurse, the University of Kansas Medical Center, and then was a key player in the COVID-19 protocol time with the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough times, we all remember, 2020 to 2022. It was a tough time, and she was a key player, keeping the organization safe and just keeping those protocols instilled. She is also a wife. She is a mother to two with a bonus baby as well. She is an influencer in the sports and entertainment space in Kansas City, and just overall baddie, obviously. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jillian. I'm excited to be here. This is so awesome.
I am thrilled too, because again, the list that we just heard, that's not even all that you do. But as I mentioned, what we do here is celebrate and elevate women in sports, women's sports, and you are a woman who does it all. So again, when I met you, I knew you to be a nurse, and I felt like that was incredibly admirable. You're also a DJ. Again, one of the first female DJs in our city, doing big things. And I also knew that you were a massive Chiefs fan. Like, we could talk about the Chiefs.
Absolutely.
Not always something that every female wants to do, but I know you do that. By the way, I left out podcast host. I knew I was supposed to have something. She also knows her stuff, so she's a co-host on the 3rd and 1 podcast, covering all things Chiefs and sports.
Yes.
But talk to me a little bit, because again, when I first met you, you were a nurse, and that's an incredible career. What was the motivation, the journey that you took to leverage that medical background that you have and walk into the NFL and play a big role?
So it's honestly a surreal experience that I never saw coming. So interestingly enough, at the time when COVID started up, if y'all recall, that was back in 2020. And right before I was presented with this opportunity, I was working as an assistant director of healthcare operations for a healthcare organization. So once again, using nursing, but more so on the insurance side, doing utilization management. So that's just a real high level, determining medical necessity for people who have inpatient hospitalizations, or if they need home health, medical equipment. I mean, the whole gamut, whatever it is, right? And so that job had turned pretty stressful, right? Because it was a startup. So you've got not only all these people you're hiring in. I went from typically having a set schedule doing utilization management, because I was a manager before I moved into the assistant director role. And so, as a leader, you do work extra sometimes. But this role had turned into 24/7. I mean, when I talk about I'm getting calls all times of the night, daily meetings with the client. I had to work on Christmas. Like, literally, we're going to see lights, and it's like, yeah, I need you to hop on a call. Like, it was a lot. And so I'm like, Lord, this is a lot. So I have a family. Like, what can I do? So when I had received a reach out from someone on LinkedIn, and initially I wasn't even going to take the call. And so this is how it's such a blessing, because she was like, I have an opportunity for you. Sometimes you get opportunities. It's like,
Yeah.
Okay. And I said, well, can I get a little bit of information before I commit to this? Because I don't want to waste anyone's time. Like, what's the salary? And she was like, well, I think you'll be interested. It's with a very high profile client. And so I just need to get you on the phone, and I'll be able to share more details at that time.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, so it's this high profile. I'm like, okay, so what is this? So I take the call, and so she's saying, okay, well, the NFL has to begin COVID testing, and we're looking for a site supervisor. And she was like, the client would be for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I literally, when she said that, G-mommy, sat down in my chair and said, no way. Like, I'm on the ground. I said, okay, you're trying to play it cool. And so I'm like, so what will entail? So she runs the whole rundown. And so at that point, I have a decision to make, right?
Right.
One, it's a blessing because secretly I'm thinking, I got to find a transition out of here because I can't commit like I'm getting pulled and it's very stressful and I'm missing out time at home, blah, blah, blah. So this is great to have another opportunity, but at the same time, it's COVID. Like I was able to work from home with my job. Once again, I had a good job. I was assistant director at a healthcare organization. So I'm going to leave that to go into the unknown and possibly risk my life because we didn't know. I mean, COVID was scary.
We didn't.
We didn't know anything. So, but I'm like, I've always been a Chiefs fan, and even interesting enough, before going into nursing, I almost went into sports medicine. Like I didn't even. I was young at the time. Like when I first got interested in it, and I'm like, I don't know what the people on the field do, but I would love to be on the field and do something like medical with that. Like they need somebody. And so I didn't even know what the appropriate term was, but that was an interest back then. And so as an adult, thinking that, okay, that had passed me by, I'm doing what I'm doing now, to have an opportunity to work in sports, I'm like, I kind of have to do this. And so thankfully my husband was very supportive of that and said, go for it, well, because, I'm like, once again, I'm putting everyone at risk, but by putting so did it. And I'm telling you, it was the best opportunity. Everybody at the organization was great. I mean, the COVID testing was wild, right? Because it was literally every single day, like in the first year, every single day, weekends included, had to be there at like 4 a.m. You're testing every single person, from all the coaches to all the players to all the people that work in the kitchen to every single person in the organization. And but like I said, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had, and it was a blessing, and it's led me to where I am now. So I wouldn't change for the world.
I mean, it's amazing to think about, if you slip up and one guy gets in and he doesn't know that he has symptoms, and then the outcome could have been enormous. It could have.
Oh yeah, because they were waiting on those tests every day. You have to do the swab, and we eventually transitioned to where we were able to get the rapid machines and so forth, get the results within 30 minutes or so. But in the beginning, we had to send off all of that to the lab in either Texas or New York, like. So it was a process, and then so you want to make sure the samples are right. You don't want to come back and say, well, something messed up, because they are literally waiting to enter the building and do things on those results. So, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And you were site supervisor, so you kept everybody in line. And thankfully, that phase of life has passed. We've passed it. Who knows if we're ever going to get back there? Let's say no, please, because that was tough. Right. But obviously, you had the skills, everything required to not only administer the test, but also, I mean, again, the stress of being the site supervisor. That's incredible. Again, that job probably doesn't exist any longer, right? Thankfully, we don't need that. But you decided to stay with the organization. So talk to us a little bit about, was that a hard decision? So what you're doing now, and how many Super Bowl rings do you have? Let's just say.
Okay. So, yeah, so like you said, thankfully COVID has transitioned away. So once that time, like, because I started through a contracted laboratory, and
Okay.
so it was like as a contracted employee with the organization. And so then once that was terminated, we were all relinquished from that. And so I went back to just doing my nursing job.
Okay.
And so then I would say within a year or so, like some positions had opened up, and thankfully I had good relationships with some of the people within the organization. And so I had applied, and then that's how I came into fan development. And I met my co-hosts that are on the podcast.
I love it.
As well. It's kind of like under the marketing department. So when I came in, it's anything from helping facilitate tours to doing the community events. When they have things within the community, their training lab, things at schools. So just really a fun job. And it's a complete U-turn from the nursing part of it, but it is into something that I just really love and enjoy. It's pretty much just the funnest job.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and it connects one of your loves and passions and joys, being the Chiefs, to the community, which is also something that I'm incredibly involved in. So, okay, but I mean, I hear ring. I know. Oh, I don't have any rings. I was with the organization for a very long time. I have 0 rings, but how many do you have?
So 1, but it could have been 3, right? Could have been 3. So sadly, and I hate to talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it really, really fast.
Yes.
But I was working with them when we lost in overtime to the Bengals.
Yes.
And so it was the Bengals and the Rams. And so I went and I worked that Super Bowl, but it was supposed to be like with my team. So I feel very sad about that. And I'm like, this would have been perfect. Like But it was what it was. So that didn't happen, right? But I do have the one from last year. We had one this year.
Okay, I got you.
So I just have one currently.
Okay, but
But I'm
tell us
blessed.
one. Like, you have
I
one.
cried. I'm like, who thought like one? I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm like, so I'm not stupid enough, but I get a ring. Oh my God. So that's what I said. No matter what, like I am truly grateful for this opportunity and everything I've got to experience. And like you said, the fact of having a ring, like I just couldn't be more blessed and thankful about it.
Okay, and I'm still salty about it, but that's okay. We're gonna step aside for a quick break and to hear from our sponsors. But when we return, we're gonna get more into what ShaRon is doing now.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
We are back. Sports and Shenanigans continues. We are joined by ShaRon Turner, aka DJ Diamond Diva, and we just went through all of the things that she has done. We left out some, but major highlights on some of the major accolades, and just what you're known for around the city. And to get where you have been, are going, are currently, there's never an easy journey, right? So obviously, Mizzou, all the schooling for your RN, BSN. We just talked about spending time in the NFL as a site supervisor for COVID-19 protocol. So the academic side of it is not easy, I'm sure. I want to hear about maybe some of the challenges, not necessarily academic wise, but just as women in sports and a woman in the NFL, which is obviously a male dominated field, leagues, et cetera. But just talk a little bit about some of and as a podcast host, some of the challenges you face. Maybe are there different expectations from you versus your male co-hosts? I know you've probably experienced it.
Absolutely. So obviously the world is advancing and people are getting better, becoming better humans, but at the same time, we still have a long way to go, right? And so, that's unfortunately still always a thing. When it comes to the podcast, particularly, like if I make a comment, like, we get on social media to engage respectfully, which is a problem now, right? So much negativity and toxicity in the comments. But you'll get in there and you'll say something and then it's like, oh, you must be a Swiftie, or tell me, name 2 players on the offensive line. Why do I have to prove myself to you? How about you name 2 players? Like, what? So it comes from that. If you're a woman, then you obviously don't know much about this sport, and you just must be here because Travis Kelce dates Taylor Swift. That type of thing. So going through that. And then too, a lot of people are just surprised with my level of knowledge in football, because like I grew up in a sports household, like football and basketball. Like my parents were big time on sports, and it's pretty much I couldn't beat them, so I joined them. And at an early age, like Sundays were for football, and it was on all day, all the time. And I would be like, oh my gosh, like it's football. And so it came to the point where it's like, well, let me sit down and ask questions. Like I started asking, so what is this? What is that? And so the more I began to understand the sport, I became in love with the sport, and I really enjoyed it. And so that's kind of how my knowledge and fandom increased, is just by understanding. And then I wanted to learn more. It started off with just, I only care about Chiefs games. And then it branched off into, now I want to see all the other games because I understand how the conferences work and what this means for my team if we don't. So it's just kind of blossomed from there. But I still get that because I'm a female, I must not know anything about it. Luckily, my co-hosts are great. Once again, like I said, they also work with the Chiefs organization. And so they knew that I knew my stuff. And that's why they're like, dude, you got to like come on the podcast. Like, let's do this because, like I said, people are just surprised as a female that you know sports. And I think we just have to get past that. Like, I don't think it should be a shocker that a woman understands athletics or has a passion for that. I mean, women, to me in general, we are rock stars in everything that we do. All of the things, like you said, we have to struggle, from childbirth to having a career to maintaining your sense of self. So to do all of that and then to show up and dominate in almost every space that we get in, I think that says a lot. And I'm grateful and so happy that we're getting to the point to see bosses like you having your own show and be like, I mean, it's a beautiful space, and I'm glad to even have a mention in it because, like I said, I didn't anticipate this for myself. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think that this would be possible for me. So just to even have a voice, to even be able to, speak on a podcast and have people care about what I'm saying, like it's truly a blessing, and it's just a wild ride. But that's probably the biggest thing is just kind of the disrespect, like you don't know what you're talking about type of thing.
And to your point, we're evolving.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more women in sports. We're seeing
Mm.
women's sports
Yes.
thriving. Just absolutely.
Yes.
Ticket sales, um, exposure,
Mm.
viewership, every number, every stat is on the up and up. But like on your side of it, a woman in sports in general, we're seeing, you mentioned the Raiders have a woman, a
Yes.
female president.
Yes.
Kansas City.
Soror too.
Yeah. Kansas City Current right here in KC, female-led president and female VP of communications. Shout out Danny Woniak, female. I hate to say this, it's a little too soon, but on the Eagles coaching staff, we saw a woman,
Yes.
and she obviously was, first woman to win the Super Bowl. So shout out her.
Yeah.
Feel salty about the game.
I know.
But why is it so important to see women in those positions for you?
I think it's important to see that because we need to, right? Like, I mean, we don't think that things are possible when we don't see them. It's easy to say, oh, you can, but when you don't see anyone that is in that space or that looks like you in that space, it can feel like it's just a bunch of talk and it's not reality. So to finally see that, to be able, like I said, to see women that are just really taking over, not just in it, but actually leading the way in sports, I think it's excellent. And I think it's about time because, like I said, I do understand and appreciate the differences in our composition, men and women and all of that. I get that. But a woman is just as capable and competent and smart just as a man. And so to finally get that recognition is just a beautiful thing. So I'm here for it. I'm here like the WNBA. I'm glad. And I said, oh my gosh, about time. You know what I mean? Like just it's like you said, it's been a boom. It's been a huge boom. And so it just makes me really happy. Like I love it.
And for me, it's not this moment. It's truly a movement.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more women. We're seeing more women of color.
More support too of
Exactly.
that.
And resources. We're talking facilities. We're talking investment in the stadiums. You're a mother you have your daughter and your bonus daughter as well. When we talk a little bit about the future of women's sports, not only in Kansas City, and the future of women in sports, do you ever stop and think like you're laying the groundwork for what they can go reap the benefits, in years to come?
Absolutely. I think about that all the time. Because I get torn and it makes me so emotional because I'm just so happy. To have my daughter and even my son, both of my kids and my stepdaughter, like it's a blessing. And so it's as a working mom, because my mom was a housewife. So I felt like that guilt when I had to go to work and leave her. And so it's like, okay, am I doing the right thing and all of that? But I had a coworker at the time who she was turned out to be a really good friend of mine at the we developed a good relationship. And so she was saying, no, your daughter needs to see that. She needs to see a strong woman who is able to work and do this because at the end of the day, we have to be able to support ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves. So she needs to see that mom is able to still have a relationship and then take care of the children and then work and then do what makes me happy. Because that's a big part of it too. A lot of times we sacrifice ourselves, which we have to a degree to raise our families. But I don't think that we should ever give up on our dreams or pursue that. So I hope that's one of the biggest things that my daughter Skylar is seeing and Zoe sees is that one, you can do anything. Never count yourself out and think that opportunities won't come. You just have to be prepared. Like they say, if you stay ready, have to get ready. And then two, go for it. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't. Yes, there will be adversity. There will be people that try to doubt you or dim your light, but you can do anything you want. Go after your dreams because it is possible. It's not just a cliche. It is possible. And so I hope that she sees that, throughout the having to work late or travel. I hope that that's what she remembers the most. Is just
Preach, girl. I love it. I love it. And you brought up something. I love that. That is just another reason why I wanted to celebrate you and your journey is that you have this personality, and it comes with you everywhere you go, and it is shining bright, and you have leveraged that into a lucrative influencer
Yeah.
career. But you do it in a way I just have a lot of respect for, and it is you again, you're your genuine self. Yes, you have the letters behind your name, the RN, the BSN, and all these accolades, but you're fine walking in here looking put together. You always look like $1,000,000. Fashion is something that you embrace, and you can see that. But you've also quickly grown into in this social media space.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and this new space that everyone. I feel like I say everyone because it's like everyone thinks they can dress. But
Absolutely.
sports, lifestyle, entertainment, digital space, you're owning it, and I just think it's amazing.
It's really funny that you say that because, like I said, I never thought that I would be doing this. Not that I wouldn't like to, but just like it comes from that, well, who am I? Like I know that I do things, but you always and maybe this is just a me thing. So shout out to everybody. Please have your self confidence because
Yes.
that's just one thing. You do all these things, but sometimes everybody has their moment. So I'm thinking, well, who cares about what I'm doing or whatever? But it just started from me having a like for fashion and trying products, and so there was a few brands that I liked, and they were having ambassadors.
Sure.
And so I had applied for one and got it. And so I had posted like my little outfit and what I wore. And so from doing that, I think it just opened me up to other brands
Yep.
because it wasn't anything at the time that I was like reaching out to others. Like I just did like a couple and that was it.
Sure.
And then from there, it just kind of spiraled. And once I start doing it, I'm like, I actually really like this. Like it's fun to wear clothes or try different products and say how I feel about them. And so once I really started liking that space, I said, well, let's find out more about it. So then that's when I started doing my research, start trying to get better at how my content is. And it just really, I honestly, Jillian, I don't know. Like it just, that's how it spiraled. And from there now it's just been a blessing. Like I really say some of it is favor because I think, just from doing things and like I said, sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, is it bad? Do I look stupid? Is it cheesy? Is it this? Is it that? But it's like, no, I'm just whatever. I'm being myself. Some things I like better than others, but I just, at the end of the day, I keep going. I keep getting better. I keep trying to learn because while I do think I've learned a lot of things in this time I've been in the space, I'm still looking to learn from others. Like there's so many other people who have got it down. Like I'm
Right.
just so amazed by their creativity. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm still trying to learn and glean because there's so much more that I feel like I can do and get there with. But that's really just how it started, just me wanting to try it. And then once I tried it, I really liked it. And then it just took off from there with working with brands. And
Yeah.
now I do apply for some of the ones that I really want. I'll look and see what they need or how I should get my name in the hat. Other ones, they reach out directly. And so that's been a big blessing to just get the email or get the DM like, hey. So
Well, I also think and you said this, but it's always stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So when the call comes or when someone's looking, they're like, oh, we know her. We think she can do. I think you're humble because I think your whole journey has set you up for this experience, and this success, which I think is super cool. But I also just love this entertainment space, right? And it is evolving. On that note, what role or do you think that fashion and style that we're seeing from athletes, even from coaches,
yeah.
what role do you feel like that your personal style and fashion has in sports?
Well, I think it's key. I mean, it's huge now, and I'm excited about that because this was not a thing. Like we weren't talking about what people were wearing and how they were present. And so now it's like a whole market and industry. And I think it's fun because why not? Like, why can't we? It's entertainment, right? Like it's all. Why can't we mix our football with our fashion or whatever? Like I'm here for it. Like I like to see what people are wearing. I
Same.
some of the wives and stuff. I'm like, oh, I love what she's got on. Like so to me, it just adds an extra layer of entertainment and fun to it, and then a way of self-expression. Because a lot of times, like before, which is a gift and a curse, right? With social media, we get to see a lot more of people and their lives and who they are versus we didn't have that. Like we just saw what was on the field and that's that.
Right.
So now I think it allows us to get more connected with the players and the coaches. Like, you kind of get to see their personality. And so I think that's also a fun way is through fashion, people, they represent themselves.
Yeah, and I don't think that's just a female thing.
No.
Like I think these players, these men as well, are seem to be seen.
Yeah. Walk in the room with clothes and gear. Absolutely. So don't let anybody fool you. It is not just a women's game. It's not. Everybody loves a good fashion. Look at Ryan Clark, one of Trailblazers. He always has on, like, he knocks it out the park with dressing.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think the men are just into it as much as the females.
I know, and I'm here for it no matter what. Quickly have to touch on your world in your experience as a DJ. For I know I've been at events that you've been DJing, but if somebody's listening, like how would you describe, or maybe like who would you compare your style to?
My style, I would say, honestly, it's me because I am very versatile, I would say. Like the music that I love and listen to is all over the board. I mean, from old school to I love jazz. I just really do.
Sure can.
And then,
Yeah.
of course, yes. And then a hip hop, you can't tell me anything about that. Like, so I mean, everything. I love all different types and genres of music. Pharrell Williams, I would say, is one of my favorite artists because I love melodies and things like that. And he's like a genius at that. So for me, like I said, when I came into the game, I started out in hip hop, like in the hip hop space. And so that's where my first love is. That's where my heart is in that. But now, like I said, because I went from DJing, I had literally a night every night, like a residency. There's not a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at some point that I haven't had a residency on one of those nights. So I started out hot and heavy, like in the club scene and events. And so now I'm not old, but now that I'm older, right? So I've transitioned more at this stage. Yeah, I still will do those things, but I am not as big of a club person as I was. So I like a lot of the weddings and fashion shows, events and things like that. Those are the things that I really like to do now because especially like anything like that's in the community or events like that's just where my heart has been anyway from a kid. Like I love working with people, helping people, engaging with people. And so that's kind of where I'm at in the DJ space now. But hey, if anyone's listening, yeah, right, absolutely. Concerts, events, like whatever. I can do it all. One stop shop.
I know, literally, I love that. And again, going through, I mean, I just feel like you're such a phenomenal representation of who women are. Dynamic, multi-talented, making it happen day in and day out. Yes, there's sacrifices. You do it all. And so I'm so thrilled to be able to
I
just like share your story. I think it's
Thank
incredible.
you. I learned how to DJ while I was nursing. Like I started DJing back in 2009. And so I was working nights at the time. I worked on the transplant unit at KU. And so I would work nights and then in the morning I would learn from one of the local DJs here. I would go and do that. So I was putting in double duty and I just caught it super quick. Like, cause I don't know. I've always loved music.
Natural.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so it didn't take me as long to learn, but just honing in on the craft, getting comfortable,
Sure.
all of that. Like it's been so much fun. And that's why I went to days actually, because I'm like, these gigs I need my nights. Like I need my nights to DJ. So that's how I transitioned to work days. At the hospital. So.
Amazing. No, I love how things, just everything that comes your way, you've been able to fully embrace it all and make the most out of it. You have a beautiful family. I know that you've always been one to credit your creative husband, your supportive husband, but everything that you do is incredible. And Kansas City's own right here, ShaRon Turner. Where can we follow you, get involved with you, and catch up and just see what you're doing?
Absolutely. So on social media, at DJ Diamond Diva on all social media outlets. Now I will be honest, and I don't know if this is showing my age or not. I signed up for TikTok, but I am not on it like that. Like I need to join the wave because then we went from that. Well, is TikTok leaving? Is it going? So I said, well, I'm just gonna stay here now on Instagram and all of that. But yes, at DJ Diamond Diva on all social media outlets. Like I said, you can catch me talking sports anytime at 31 Podcasts, and then I also do a lot of little one-offs and updates on my page as well. But that's the biggest way to find me. You reach out, DM, send me an email.
But connect because she is an incredible personality at doing, all the stuff we just talked about and more. And that is why we want to celebrate you, specifically Women's Month, just everything that you're doing as a mom, as a wife, as a professional. It's incredible. And so this has been ShaRon Turner, a baddie, a Kansas Cityan, a woman in sports. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jillian.
Of course, guys, that was Sports and Shenanigans, where women's sports and pop culture collide. Catch us next week for another amazing episode.